Hi, welcome. I'm Kieran Bow. I'm Group Head of Data Quality at Lloyds Banking Group, and I'm here today to talk to you a bit about our journey in how we've been scaling up data quality across the group in order to deliver that trusted data. Before I do, let me give you a little bit of background around who I am. So as I mentioned, I'm Group Head of Data Quality at Lloyds Banking Group. I've been at the bank for coming up to 4 years. Prior to that, I worked quite heavily in consulting, always been in the financial services industry, and predominantly within data. What is my team responsible for? We're responsible for a number of things, but predominantly looking at our strategic data quality for the group. How are we embedding and adopting data quality practices and controls across the group? Data issue management, as well as a number of board metric level monitoring. I am also a winner for Enterprise Data Management Professional of the Year last year. This year, not last year. And I also have two very active children, a 10-year-old football fanatic boy and a very theatrical musical 6-year-old daughter. So for those of you that don't know details around Lloyds Banking Group, hopefully you've all heard of the bank as the UK's largest bank. But this slide really brings into picture around the sheer volume of the bank. So we have a number of products that underpin our business units, our core business units, retail, commercial and insurance, pension, investments. And our trusted brands, we have 16 brands across the entire group. And many of these household names you may be familiar with. But from a Lloyds Banking Group and my team's responsibility, we sit across the entire group. We're very much around how do we ensure that data quality best practices are consistent, are reusable, and are being applied across our core products and business areas. We're based across 8 core hub locations within the UK, but we do actually have quite a bit of presence now in North America and Europe. And just over 65,000 employees across the bank. Now, you may have heard in the media and various kind of LinkedIn posts around our group transformational journey. So Lloyds Banking Group is under a huge transformational journey. Our mission is to become the UK's largest fintech. How are we going to achieve this? We really need to work closer with our business and our technology teams. So what are we doing to achieve this? We're bringing our business and technology colleagues together. So last year, we saw a big shift in the way that we work with platform leads, embedding those very much within the business and technology and data areas. We have invested a huge amount in our people, processes, technology and data. We have worked tirelessly to reduce our legacy applications, and we've decommissioned over 500, and we're still on that mission to continue decommissioning legacy applications. We are massively investing in Gen AI, blockchain, and consolidating our data centers. Again, something that you will see quite often across LinkedIn and various other forums is that embedding of Gen AI in all things we do across the bank. We've also had around 46% of our applications being transitioned into cloud, both private and public, and a huge focus on new hires actually within technology and data. And that's not just from colleagues with experience, but also really heavily investing in our next talent pipeline. So through our industrial placements, our graduates, really looking to bring in that fresh talent to help us on this transformational journey. I got a little quote from our Chief Data and Analytics Officer. So when I asked him, Ranil, what is, your vision and why do you think data quality is so important for us to achieve our mission to become the UK's largest fintech? And here is a little statement from Ranil. So very much focusing on if we prioritize data quality across a group, it's going to unlock so many other doors for us to make sure that we are creating those foundational layers for our digital transformation. So we've got to make sure that our data is accurate, it's trustworthy. We can create those data-driven insights based on this trustworthy data. And what do we gain from this? We're fostering innovation, we're improving our customer and colleague experiences, And ultimately, that's what's helping us onto that journey to become the UK's largest fintech. So what I get asked quite often is, how are we within Chief Data and Analytics Office data quality, ensuring that the group is applying those consistent data quality controls at pace? And how do we make sure they're automated? So there's kind of three key areas that I really wanted to call out here. First one is getting our senior buy-in from our group executive committee. So I'm really proud to say that Lloyds Banking Group has got a really tech-savvy leadership. That goes from our CEO through to our CFO, to our COO, and actually all of our executive members really understanding the value of data. We've had a huge year, 18 months now actually, where we've got endorsement from our GEC members on data management practices. I'm proud to say that it really includes fixing and remediating data quality issues at pace. So again, making sure that we've got that visibility and we're really understanding the value of fixing our data quality issues. We've spent a huge amount of effort across the group in training and upskilling our colleagues. And this ranges not just from those within a data role, those that may sit out in our branches, those that may sit within our call centres or our operational offices. We've invested a huge amount of different initiatives. The most recent one is around the 200 plus senior leaders undergoing a Leading with AI training. And this is a 6-month really intensive course with Cambridge University around why is AI so important within Lloyds Banking Group, and what will it enable us to achieve as part of our financial transformational journey. We've upskilled many colleagues across our business unit data offices, our platforms, as mentioned, our non-data colleagues, and we do this through so many different events. We've had data summer schools, which we ran last year, and we're proud to be running them again this year. And we're actually won a number of awards for across the group as well, just on how do we make sure that our colleagues understand the value of data. Next week, we have a roadshow, data quality roadshow, where Ataccama will be joining us on stage to again really talk about the value, the impact of having good data quality. And that's again open to all colleagues across the group to attend. And then finally, the area that I'd like to also call out is our producer consumer RACI model. So producer and consumer was rolled out again around 18 months ago across the group at our GEC members -1 level. And that's around how do we make sure that our producers understand what their roles are, what are they accountable for, what do they need to ensure as part of their role that they are applying and they are achieving in order to help us trust our data. And from a consumer perspective, just because you consume data doesn't mean you don't have a responsibility. There are many responsibilities that we have identified through our producer consumer RACI work, and that ranges from things around utilizing data for reporting if you come across a data quality issue. And this has really transformed the way that we are moving at pace, enabling us to trust our data. And then the little point on here that I've mentioned is around our general ledger migration. So this actually end of 2023 drove the group to understand that we've got approximately 4,000 data issues. In order for us to move our general data ledger migration, we need to fix some of these, workarounds and these kind of controls that we may have in place on our data. How can we enable these issues to be resolved at pace so we can derive data from source? So I wanted to drill just a little bit more around the producer consumer, because this has really been a game changer for Lloyds Banking Group. And how do we, embed this across our senior leadership and the group to make sure that we accelerate data quality to create that trusted data? So to grow, in order for us to grow our business, we need to make sure that that data is trusted to make the right decisions with confidence for our customers, for our colleagues, and for our regulatory requirements. How do we make sure that we focus? So again, we're talking about, upskilling. We're talking about how do we make sure that colleagues have got access to the data. So when they are consuming, do they understand what their roles and responsibilities are when they are a consumer? Do they understand what decisions they may need to make, when they may be looking to create more data from an EUC perspective? And then change. How do we make sure that we understand what change is required at pace to make sure that we are a data-driven organization and we're really utilizing the data and technology that we have to make us become that, data first digital bank. And we've got a couple of definitions here. A producer, if you produce it, you've got to make sure it's right. You are responsible for the controls that you apply on there. And if you are consuming it, you've got to make sure that you adhere to those standards and you don't utilize that data and go off and create more data, which may not be, approved by our producers. So what has been our data quality remediation journey at Lloyds Banking Group? So I mentioned earlier on that we had our financial ledger migration where we had 4,000 issues opened. That's not the only set of issues that we have across the group. In 2020, we actually had each business area logging their own data quality issues in Excel and Access databases. It was very fragmented. So in 2020, we launched data quality issue management. We brought all of these issues into one single area. And that really enabled us as a group to see where we have got pockets of themes, where we have got particular applications with a large number of issues, business processes with a large number of issues. So moving a little bit forward in 2021, we started seeing an increase in the connections that we have across the group for Ataccama, which is our on-prem DQ strategic tool. And we started seeing an increase of, actually, if we've got these issues being logged, we need to start connecting and running data quality controls on a regular basis so that we don't act on a reactive mode after issues are logged, but we are actually starting to run our own proactive DQ controls to make sure before a consumer goes to consume the data, we've already identified that we've got gaps in our data. In 23, we enhanced DQIM to start including data issues, and data issues, what we define at Lloyds Banking Group is, where there is a risk in a particular business process. Is the user using the right data? Has the data been transformed along its journey? So we started logging data issues across the group. And that's where we saw a real increase in the number of our users and an increase of attention from our board members also. I already mentioned earlier the financial transformation, ledger transformation. So we saw around 4,000 data quality issues logged. We also saw a number of issues being remediated and closed, which is fantastic. And in mid last year, we had still around 1,000 that were still open. And that's where we then went to our steering committee to really understand how can we start fixing these issues? How can we start prioritizing these at pace? And that's where we got endorsement from our executives to ensure that every business unit across the group is allocating a pot of money to fix these issues at pace. And that was an absolute game changer for Lloyds Banking Group mid last year. Fast forward to where we are today, this board metric still exists. So we're very keen on making sure that issues that are being remediated within the group are being remediated within a time frame. We're making sure that we have targets set out for the years ahead of us. And that's really as a group, how do we make sure that we can trust our data at source and we are applying our data quality controls to ensure that we can pick these up as we go along. Looking a little bit into the future, so we still have our funding model still agreed there. How do we make sure that our business areas and our platforms, through our quarterly business review processes, they're really looking at what issues sit within their applications and they are addressing them. They're allocating funding, they're prioritizing these for remediation. Also, something very exciting is that we have Ataccama coming into the group to run a business realization study. And this is really important for us, actually. It's going to help us to demonstrate that value of data management capabilities across the group. And that will really help us embed, some of the challenges that we may find in, do you know what, I don't actually need these data management practices in place because I don't see the value from them. But once we run this study, we'll be able to demonstrate what that value actually is, that financial value, that business process value, that customer value through the study. And this is something that's going to help us tap into each of our business areas to help them bring us onto that journey and actually answer some of the questions that we get from our executive committees, which is we're funding and we're allocating money to remediate these issues, but what's the business value that we're going to achieve once we've done this? So really looking forward to having Ataccama join us in the next couple of weeks to run that study. So I wanted to bring in a bit of a real life examples, let's say, and this is how we presented to our executives last year, just around that business value piece that I've been talking about for data quality. So often we are asked by our CFO, of course, what is the value, Kieran? What money are we saving? What business benefits are we achieving if we start fixing data quality issues and we focus on data quality? So what I did last year was pull together, and obviously this has been anonymized, but I did pull in some real life examples that we saw through some of these data quality issues. So just on the kind of right hand side here in the dark blue, we can prevent regulatory fines, and an example of this, and a real life example, was around sanctions data, sanction screening data. So for any breach, the Office of Financial Sanctions Implementation can actually impose a really hefty fine of around £1 million for any incorrect data that may be submitted as part of that reporting. And if we didn't, pick up this data quality issue, we didn't remediate this prior to submitting, that could have a really detrimental impact to us from a regulatory fine perspective. There could be an impact here around, the business financial loss we have. So in the kind of bright pink here, how do we run our group risk-weighted assets calculator? How do we make sure that that data is really accurate for every business area that feeds into that? If it's not accurate, the value that we could lose would be, the financial loss, the business loss around how we have not ensured that that risk-weighted asset is correct. And maybe I'll pick another one. So let's have a look at the orange, which is around improving resource efficiency. We have a huge number of colleagues, predominantly within our consumer areas. So risk and finance, if you think of those as our heaviest consumer areas, a large amount of their time is spent around applying manual workarounds on the data that they're consuming. Think about EUCs galore here. So, bringing in Excels, we're bringing in data from other sources. It's not quite how I need it. So I'm going to put it into somewhere else. I'm going to transform it, maybe do some other merging from other data sources. And hey ho, I've got my, reporting in line now. If we were able to take that data from source and trust it from source, the amount of resource efficiency that we would free up, allowing these colleagues to get products out to our customers quicker, enabling them to build new data products for the group without having that risk around our manual workarounds. So some real life examples that we've seen within the bank around how we can add that value around remediating, trusting data from source so that we can really improve the way that the bank works. So this is all I wanted to cover today, to give you a bit of an insight into how Lloyds Banking Group is really dedicated to trusting our data from source, trusting our data to be able to unlock the value of AI, to enable us to become the UK's largest fintech. And data quality sits at the heart of this. And I'm really proud to say that we are making huge changes in the way that we identify data quality controls, identify data quality control gaps and failures. And it's a journey. It's a journey that the group is under. But we are working tirelessly and working across the group to make sure that we really can ensure that the group can trust data to unlock that value. Thank you very much for listening to me today. I hope that you found this presentation useful, and thank you again for listening.